Hotep, Black Power, as always, giving honor to the Creator and to all of our ancestors and all of our loved ones. What I want to do today is to talk about a special brother whose Ascension Day was this day. 6 years ago, he made his ascension. One of the greatest, if not the greatest researchers of our time, of our generation, and of our time. And I'm quite sure y'all know who that is. It shouldn't be, we shouldn't have to go through anything to know that brother Steve Coakley. Brother Steve Coakley should be no ifs, ands, or buts. Our undisputed researcher. Now, I'm not saying the greatest lecturer or the greatest scholar, I'll say, of all time. I'm not saying that. I'm saying one of the greatest researchers of our time, and that's just my opinion, based on my existence here, my experiences. I believe Steve Coakley is the greatest researcher of my time, and I'll leave it like that. If you if you don't know who Steve Coakley is, I can only give you a brief synopsis and description of what and who Steve Coakley was. And I'll say is because he's still with us. The great ancestor was the first individual who worked under Mayor Harold Washington in Chicago. Steve Coakley was fired for protesting and having a Columbus Day boycott because he was the assistant to Mayor Harold Washington. And what happened was, when he boycotted Columbus Day, the people that were with him left him out to dry, and Steve Coakley was eventually fired. And he understood how the white supremacy and the powers, so-called powers that be, can belittle our people. With his personal experience of being left out to hang and dry by his own people. He was also the first person to give us the information on the Baphomet. The Baphomet of the secret societies. He broke down the 13 families. He broke down all the college fraternities, the 9 black college fraternities, with Sigma Pi Phi, which you see here, which is also known as the Boule. And Steve Coakley broke it down of you see the Greek letters that spell Sigma Pi Phi with the gargoyle with his paw covering the urn, and inside the urn, that circle you see represents the white superpowers of the world that oppress us, and the gargoyle, which is the Boule, which is the black fraternity Sigma Pi Phi, which their mission is to keep their paw over the urn to protect white supremacy. In turn, they receive wealth and prestige at a minute level to keep the rest of the blacks and people of color at a subordinate level. In other words, make sure to ensure that the rest of the blacks remain poor and destitute and docile and ignorant and uneducated and illiterate to the forces and the powers that be and what they do on a daily and consistent basis to ensure the annihilation and destruction of people of color, primarily the black man and black people in particular. Steve Coakley brought that out. He put the Boule on blast. He snuck in a lot of the Boule conventions, and I'll just give you a couple of people who were Boule. Martin Luther King was Boule. Barack Obama. Any black dignitary, so-called dignitary that you can think of was a member of the Boule. You know, Doug Wilder, former Virginia governor. You know, and the Boule consists of 3,000 plus members. And in no way could I break it down to you and explain to you about the Boule in detail. I'm not even going to try. But Steve Coakley was an expert at it, and if you get the chance, you should make it a priority to go on YouTube or get in contact with Steve Coakley's son to get copies of his lectures. And he talked about an array of things, but primarily the Boule and also the superpowers that be. Some of his favorite people that he studied and got his ideologies from, and a lot of his techniques were from the great ancestor, the most honorable Marcus Mosiah Garvey. And his militant techniques from the Honorable Dr. Khalid Muhammad. Both of those ancestors were feared by white supremacy, and they both were annihilated in different ways by the system of racism, white supremacy. So, it's just, you know, this is just a tidbit for what Brother Steve Coakley gave to the world. And this is his son. It looks exactly like him and has picked up the torch, but he admits himself that he is not his father. And the only thing he can try to do is continue and carry his father's legacy. You know, I knew Steve Coakley personally, and I knew his son personally. And Steve Coakley Jr. is over in Ghana right now, setting up camp. He's putting in a lot of work over there, and you know, we were communicating back and forth while he was in Ghana, you know, through email and text and through things of that nature. So, you know, the young brother is very strong, and he was targeted for termination by the system of racism, white supremacy, once his father made his ascension. And that was one of the reasons why he left the United Snakes. You know, he told me this personally. And I saw footage of him being harassed by these camel breath, redneck, tobacco spitting, hunky ass state troopers in Memphis, Tennessee. You know, that were inflicting harassment on the brother. But he's putting in work now and carrying on the legacy of his father. Steve Coakley was dealing with some congestive heart situations, which made him create rapid weight loss. He lost most of the calcium in his body, which resulted in his teeth falling out. And, you know, was rumored that he was on drugs, he was smoking crack, which literally broke his heart. He literally went on radio, on social media, and cried tears about how painful that was after all the work he's done, you know, to have a bone on him, a rumor put out like that about him, you know, it really tore him apart. And He was in a coma for 8 days. He came out of the coma, and when he was semi-conscious, Steve explained to the people that they were actually trying to take him out. They were trying to kill him in the hospital by inserting various different apparatuses in his throat and stuff like that, in which he rejected those things, but they were trying to force these things and implant these things in Steve, which he explained to us. However, when he was released from the hospital, he stayed home for maybe about a month, and when he had to go back into the hospital, I believe he had collapsed in his home. He had told people that he probably will not be coming back, because I believe that no one supported him like we should have. We should have, security should have been very, very heavy to ensure that the adequate medical attention, was administered to the brother. I'm not placing blame on anyone, but these are the type of things that we should provide for our elders when they reach stages in their lives like this. So when he went back into the hospital, he succumbed to his conditions. But I believe he was murdered, just as Dick Gregory was. And if these brothers were here to explain, they would say that they were murdered. And I know that based on, what they went through and what they, spoke about and how dangerous that they were. Steve Coakley was a threat to global white supremacy. He was a threat. He was a major threat. And when they made their rounds, they made their rounds. Dr. Khalid Muhammad. I mean, we can go all the way back to Marcus Garvey. All the way up to Brother Steve and beyond. However, they were about to put the clutch and the headlock on the system of racism, white supremacy. But the sad part of this whole thing is, without real leaders that existed, that are ancestors now, that when they were in physical form, we did not rally around them. So we all collectively, because the black race is the greatest army that ever existed in the history of mankind, that we could have rallied around our leaders and straightened all this out, destroyed the entire system of racism, white supremacy. Have you ever thought about or been in a position where someone weaker than you in every aspect of their being, and you're stronger than them in every aspect of your being? However, you are afraid to destroy them so you can have freedom. And knowing anytime you feel like you can destroy them, but you are comfortable and have accepted the fear, you have accepted having nothing, you have accepted being weak, you have accepted being docile, you have accepted being murdered. Anytime they feel like you have accepted being a third-class citizen, you have accepted to know that your ancestors were raped, tortured, pillaged, castrated, set on fire, tarred and feathered, impregnated unjustly. And you have accepted that, knowing you are the stronger individual. And anytime that you get the courage to deal with that situation and straighten the entire situation by abolishing and annihilating your enemy, that you can do it, but you refuse to do it based on fear. And it's proof by all the leaders that we have had, male and female, that have come through to encourage and to make our people stand up and fight their natural enemy, the natural born enemy. You know, so I've seen Steve Coakley walk with his children to a lecture with no vehicle, with a suitcase with the wheels on it, with all his paperwork in it, going from lecture to lecture, not being paid nowhere near what he was worth. I remember the night when he did the Martin Luther King assassination, about Jesse Jackson's involvement in the assassination of Dr. King here in Washington, D.C., and someone drove a car through his mother's patio window. I remember all the death threats. I remember the death threats that Malik Zulu Shabazz and the so-called Pew Black Panther Party put on Steve Coakley because he had evidence and proof that Malik Zulu Shabazz, Dr. Khalid Muhammad's wife, Irv Rubin from the ADL, Abraham Foxman from the JDL, and others were complicit in the assassination of Dr. Khalid Muhammad. And the death threats were put on. Now, if this wasn't true, even down to his son, Farrakhan Khalid Muhammad, he turned into a cold pussy ass bitch nigga when his father made his ascension. He may have had a role in it too. And how was it that after Khalid made his ascension, all these people end up stepping up and moving up and having major positions in the black community? In positions and voices that they didn't have when Dr. Khalid was here in physical form. And why would you get mad when someone says that Dr. Khalid Muhammad was assassinated? Why would that bother you? Because you didn't love the man as much as you betrayed in the public. Because you are alpha, you took a pledge that you will defend the Boule, which is first and foremost. And Khalid Muhammad was going against Negroes as well. The same Negroes that you pledged with. And so your loyalty was with those Negroes first and foremost. And see, we need to be clear about a lot of things without doing a whole bunch of talking and being afraid to say things. We're all going to go out here anyway. None of us are getting out this shit alive. Not near one of us. So it's no use in continuing to walk around like you had panties on. Because a lot of you do. You yell out that you are so strong and you're so vicious when it comes to somebody that looks like you. You know, you have lectures and debates where you battle other blacks. Whose religion is this? Who didn't do that? Who's the strongest? Who's the weakest? Instead of uniting. Fuck the differences. Fuck the differences. Because it's not going to matter if you're in the house and FEMA has your house surrounded. Nobody's not going to walk through the house and ask who is a Muslim, who is a Christian, who is a Jehovah's Witness, who is a Hebrew Israelite. It's time to pass out the fucking weapons. Because white supremacy doesn't give a fuck what you are. You are a nigger in the eyes of white supremacy. Male and female. Let's not get it twisted. Rest in power to Sister Corinne Gaines, one of the young sisters that stood up, that had more courage and more testicular fortitude than most of you motherfuckers that be on social media yelling and barking and roaring and growling about this and about that And you're not going to do shit to this cracker. Nothing. You really have had no interaction with him. You don't have a criminal record. You haven't battled these motherfuckers. You haven't battled the Aryan Brotherhood in these penitentiaries. You haven't got down like that. The only thing you've gotten down with is representing a street that you live on, which is owned by motherfucking HUD and government housing, motherfucker. You haven't put no goddamn work in. And I'm telling you from experience, not only myself, but I know other brothers and strong G's out here that been in these institutions for years, not no goddamn days and months, and have battled some of the most vicious goddamn redneck Aryan Brotherhood, white supremacist, shaved skinhead motherfuckers on the East and West Coast. So, don't talk that bullshit. Know your motherfucking place. Stay in your lane. Stay in your goddamn lane. And that's why I say, we need to all know our fucking positions. Don't be something that you're not, because you're going to get called on it one day. And these are some of the things that I learned from Brother Steve Coakley, Dr. Khalid Muhammad, and others. Because I've done lectures and have been in the presence and have conversed with so many of our real true warriors today that exist today. A lot of them have gone on to the ancestral realm, but I have interacted, but I'm not one that's out here trying to receive global recognition on any of that. I just want to, do my part. Do my part. Because a lot of times, an empty wagon makes a lot of goddamn noise. And so, we have to be straight up and be honest and be thorough in our journey in this thing called life, and connect with our brothers, because we are at war. And don't say that war is another way around it, because it's not. You read any of your scriptures, any religious text tells you that war is inevitable. But we keep pacifying, we keep softening ourselves up more and more. Because everybody's running into the church, hiding behind gays and the gay community, black gay and the white gay community is just overpowering everything, and they're the most respected motherfuckers on the planet as we speak. Thanks to Obama, who demanded that we respect gays. But you don't want to hear if I show you documentation and footage of your former president who got down with some motherfucking gays. So, we have to take our stance back and walk in our own greatness and be the fucking warriors that we are. And don't get me wrong, I have nothing against gays, but I am against homosexuality, the behavior, the mindset. I have issues with that shit because it's wrong. It's immoral. And don't try to say no one sin, all the sins are the same and all that bullshit. That's the shit that these white Roman faggots and that faggot Pope in 325 AD at the Nicene Council instilled in that Bible to make it okay for men to fuck men. And it's in the book of Leviticus as well. So I'm not, You got to be clear about a lot of shit. And that's why I say research. Don't come out your mouth based on you functioning all fucking emotion. And you're not dealing with principles. You're not dealing with facts. That's why it's important to do research. Read. You know, if somebody asks you about how many ecumenical councils that they were, which is so important to us to know. You don't know that, but you can tell me how many episodes of empire, what season of empire, what season of power it is, who's fucking who in the ass on the have and have-nots. If loving you is wrong and all this bullshit. You know all that, but you don't know anything that can uplift your spirituality, that can make you function on a level that you would never imagine that you could function off of as a man or as a woman. But see, fear of the unknown got a lot of y'all shaking in your boots, because a lot of you are scared of success because you're afraid that you're going to turn out and be something, and that comes with responsibility, because a lot of you are not responsible. You're only responsible for upholding white supremacy, which means watching the things on TV that I just explained, getting involved in sports as far as watching the NBA and NFL and all that shit, being a committed fan. But be a committed fan to some of your heroes and sheroes. What about the people that you were directly related to, your blood relatives that died in the Middle Passage, and the ones that made it over here, that took the rapings and the beatings and the lynchings and the tortures? Because if they didn't, you would have never existed. You would have never existed. Because we're only 3 or 4 generations out of slavery, out of physical slavery. So, you know, I thank Brother Steve Copeland for the work that he's put in. You know, for the sacrifice, for what he gave to the world, for what he gave to black people, to raise their level of consciousness, to make them stronger people, to give them the information that can help them fight the system of racism, white supremacy. Because once again, no one knew anything about the Boule or the Baphomet or all these secret societies. No one knew anything about that until Brother Steve, Baba Steve. And he always say Bogart. He always say Bogart. He always say guard the door. Always. That was 2 of his pet peeves. And then he said that for a reason. So, you know, in closing, I just want to say, you know, I thank you, brother. You know, I'll celebrate your Ascension Day today by doing extra research and being much more stronger of a warrior. Because we have to learn to walk, talk, act like warriors if you want to respect and if you want to do the work of a warrior. Stop being a fuck nigga. Stop being a fuck ass nigga. Because at the end of the day, before you close your eyes at night, you know what type of individual you were that day. Hotep, Black Power.